Everyone says how horrible it will be to renovate or build your house. We're here to say it doesn't have to be that way. Join 3 seasoned architects as they interview homeowners who recently completed a large project and ask them one simple question. What do you know now that you wish you knew before you started? Welcome to Home, the Second Story podcast.
Hi, and welcome to a snack size episode of Home, the Second Story. I'm Marilyn Modinger from Runcible Studios, located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and Boston, Massachusetts. And today I'm joined by...
I'm Sherry Scott in Cincinnati, Ohio.
And I'm Taylor Davis in Birmingham, Alabama.
Today we're talking about plumbing fixtures, which is a wide open topic.
It is.
We just finished 2 kitchens and bathrooms, so these are like heavy on my mind.
Heavy on your mind. I will
Heavy
keep
on my
the
mind.
puns to a minimum. Before before we hit record, I started going off on puns. I will keep them to a minimum. Unless our listeners write in and say they'd like to hear some, and
We
then
love
I'll be
them. We
vindicated.
all love them, Marilyn.
We love
all
your
them.
puns.
Try to keep them flowing during this episode here. And one of the things that I can do, and that you guys can do too, is spec plumbing fixtures. So let's talk about some wisdom related to plumbing.
Let's start at the beginning. So let's kind of work through the process. So we start with design. In my office, of course, we just do a preliminary design, which shows a toilet, a sink, a tub, a shower, a kitchen sink, kind of more like location things like planning, space planning.
Like, here's basically where it's going to be.
Then when we get more specific is when we're making selections, and a little bit more than that, particularly in bathrooms, because we need to know space planning for what tubs. Literally, I have a client right now that it's called something like the mega monolith something. It's like this huge stone tub that's out in the
Wow.
middle of the floor, which is amazing. But we have to do structural stuff for that and just space planning. Like, that's a different animal than a regular 6-foot tub.
Well, and it's good. This is a good time to mention one of our favorite pieces of advice, which we're going to give on every single episode, pretty much, which is tell your designer if you have something like that in mind. So if that's something that's super important to you, I had a client years ago who really wanted one of the Japanese sort of wooden tall tubs. And that's a very specialty thing. And they told me right from day one, they're like, you know what, when we were having our initial conversations about design, they said, it's very important to me that we make room for this and that we do this in this way. Perfect. So then I wasn't drawing, the 5-foot tub, in an alcove. From day one, I was taking that tub into consideration.
Did that tub make it into the project?
It did.
Yay.
It did.
Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
I think too, when we're going to check out specifics or think about specifics as we move into the selections process, and here comes Taylor's soapbox. We think about ease of operation, and especially if we were doing aging in place design, we want to make sure that the kinds of plumbing fixtures that we are specifying are going to be things that are easy to operate, that have potentially some safety features that are included on them. So some anti-scald mechanisms, some preset temperatures. That's really great for if you're older, because it is also really good for little ones too, so they don't turn on the water too hot. So look at some of the technology when you go to your plumbing fixture store. You're going to see some advances over probably what you're coming from, which is a sink, maybe a pull down, maybe a sprayer. There's all sorts of new bells and whistles that allow for safer and easier use of fixtures. And for us, that's really important. But it's important for older folks, but it's really kind of important for everyone. And it certainly isn't something that is relegated. This only is worth it if you're 75 or older. So I think ease of use, accessibility, safety, and then the combination of those things in the bathroom, or in a kitchen, how you move between plumbing fixtures if you need another sink in another location for a prep zone. If there's enough room, do you have to navigate around something to fill up your pot? So thinking about how you use it will also impact your selection process because you're wanting
Yeah.
to place those things in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And, something else that is worth thinking about on the early side is the finish color. So, in the past, we didn't have that many options for finish color. Once we sort of left the 1920s and 30s, when we had all those porcelain, like crazy, green toilets and mulberry colored sinks and all these amazing ceramic pieces. When we moved more into everything sort of white porcelain, and then the fixtures themselves, the faucets and the shower heads and stuff are all chrome, that's the way things were for a while, or they were brass. Like you kind of had one or two or three options. Now there's a lot of options. So you can get gold or brushed gold or a living finish or brass or whatever. And all of it's cool, but what can happen, and this is an early caution for early in the process, is if you pick a really specialized finish. Like I had a client choose this beautiful set of fixtures for their primary bath that was all in a gunmetal finish. Well, then we had to figure out how are we going to find towel bars that match
Right.
gunmetal. So if you're working in those specialty finishes, you kind of have to buy into the whole suite of that same finish if you want it to match. So I'm thinking of a company we go with a lot, California Faucets. They have like 30 different finishes, but within each finish, they have absolutely everything. So the toilet paper holder, the hooks for the wall, the absolutely everything that matches that specialty finish. It just means that you have less choices because you're not looking at all of the hooks or all of the towel bars that are potentially possible. You are narrowing yourself to whatever that specialty finish is. And generally, I guess I should say as a baseline, you do generally from a design perspective match all the metal in your bathroom with itself. So
I'm going to do a hot take. I don't necessarily.
I don't
think you
necessarily
have
either,
to.
but that's generally like a starting
Most
point.
people feel comfortable with that, but I think that there are certainly opportunities to mix and match.
That's right.
And if your designer, it depends on all the other finishes in your bathroom. There's so many ways to mix and match things, but if you really have your heart set on things that are different finishes, I think that's okay. You just have to kind of work through that from a design perspective and understand how those things are going to connect to each other. I am of the newly formed eclectic sort of think about a little more creativity in how we are speccing finishes in our kitchens and bathrooms, which may go over like a lead balloon with some clients. But I think it's kind of fun to sort of think about, can we make some of these disparate pieces feel like they work together?
Yeah, I think it's a design challenge, right? Like you just have to pay attention to it. It's an easier lift to make everything match and nobody's going to question it. And you won't walk in and feel like there's something off, I think, if everything matches. But then if you do it right with different materials, then it could be magical, right?
Yeah.
The other thing about specialty finishes that I have learned is to understand how they will wear before you use them. We had a moment where people were asking for black finishes and looks great for maybe 2 months. And then it's just so hard to take care of. Water spots and lime deposits. It depends on where you live and what your water is like and what your cleaning habits are like. But just take that into perspective, go a little bit deeper and figure out how that's going to age.
While we're speaking of black fixtures in particular, that I've noticed a huge difference in quality of a black finish depending on the quality of the fixture itself. So if you're getting the bargain basement, whatever faucet that's black, that finish is not going to last at all. If you're getting a really nice fixture like a Kohler or I said we use California Faucets all the time. We're not endorsing anything, whatever. There's lots of really great stuff out there. But generally, I'm not just saying expensive, I'm saying good quality. So if you get reputable, good quality, whatever, those finishes are going to last longer. But there's no getting around that black is an applied finish where something like chrome is not. And in the same way, it's not. So that's very important.
So along the lines of selection of plumbing fixtures, there's so much that's available online for you to look at, and it can be very tempting to purchase something online because you think it looks beautiful in a picture or on the catalog site. And I'm going to offer two pieces of advice with that. The first is that if something breaks, if there is a washer that is missing, or if there's a part that doesn't come in, A, you as the homeowner are likely responsible for figuring out how to get that. And B, that part might not be readily available with even your local plumbers.
That's
So
right.
or if you are looking at a gorgeous faucet that is only available in Europe and you want to bring it to the States, that's a whole other issue actually, is European fixtures versus our fixtures and the spread and the sizes of the plumbing, like all of that stuff can be really problematic. So just
Yes.
it's important to talk to your designer, and I would always advocate going to your local fixture supply place
Yes.
because they have the connections with the plumbers to be able to tell you which fixtures brands they have to repair more frequently, which is
Yeah.
the stuff that
Mhm.
breaks a lot, and B, the plumbers will have access to the parts from the faucets and the fixtures that they carry in that vendor's showroom. So you are setting yourself up not just for today for a beautiful fixture that you can touch and see and select while you're in the showroom, but you're setting yourself up for down the road. You know that you have access to the parts that you will need, and they will be able to help you with a plumber that can help repair a fixture because nothing lasts forever.
That's right.
Mhm.
Well, and the
Mhm.
other part about going to the showroom, which I 100% advocate for, and that's super important, is you get to try everything. So
Yeah.
turning the faucet handles, especially the kitchen faucet. I've had clients walk into a showroom with 300 kitchen faucets, and the look of them, they're like, oh my gosh, I could pick many of these. These are really
Mhm.
cool. But when they start playing with them and trying them and pulling down the sprayer, then they
Squeezing.
start, yeah, like whether it's a squeeze handle, whether it's the little button that you push or slide, and immediately they start to eliminate things based on how it feels. And then they're down to only 3 or 4 faucets that are viable for them. Then that's also much easier to digest, right, than 300 faucets. But also they've tried it and they have confidence in how that's going to feel. Something like a kitchen faucet or a bathroom faucet, you're using all the time. You do
Right.
not want it to feel
important.
chintzy or to feel awkward in your hand. You want it to feel right, So going to the showroom allows you to try it out.
Yep.
Another thing that it's been around for a long time, but water limiting devices.
Yes.
And so many devices are different. They're not all created the same. So
Yep.
if you can understand how it limits the water, I am fully behind the idea of limiting the water out of a faucet. I think that we don't need as much as we used to use. And there are better technologies than others. Like some of them, I swear, it's just that plastic cap that just literally reduces the water, and they did nothing else to
Yep.
make it work better.
Yep.
There are better ways. And so research
Well, and
that.
also depending on what state you're in. So obviously I do a lot of work in Massachusetts and we have very strict limits. So I can't even buy certain fixtures because it's
Right.
not Massachusetts compliant. So
Mhm.
that's something you definitely don't want to get into. If you as a homeowner don't have a designer involved or a designer who doesn't understand your local codes and is just speccing all this stuff and buying all this stuff and you
Oh,
get all the
sure.
stuff there, and then the builder says I can't use any of this because the company will sell it to you, online, whatever shop will
Sure.
sell it to you. The other part of that too is making sure that you have the right valves for everything.
Mhm.
So when we are speccing fixtures, faucets, shower, that kind of thing, they have valves, and the valves is the thing inside the wall. And we could go into a whole thing about shower valves and whether it's thermostatic and whether it's pressure balance and all this kind of stuff. All that stuff matters. And we actually, as designers and architects, know that stuff and can walk you through, okay, here's why you do this, here's why you do this, here's why you do that. And how it works with the actual innards of the valve. And that's important too, especially when you're putting together a budget and you're like, okay, here are all the fixtures, but then you forget to count the valves.
Yes.
So valves aren't crazy expensive, but it's a few $100s per fixture or per fixture that requires a valve, right?
Well, it depends
And
on the valve.
It depends on the valve, of course. And it depends, like, if you're doing a deck mount faucet, like a widespread deck mount faucet in your primary bath, you don't need the same sort of wall innards that you do if you're doing a wall mount with the valve inside the wall. And like there's other considerations that may impact like how you have to frame the wall or how you have to do things or how you have to build the vanity. You want to have all that stuff, those decisions early, so then you can kind of go back through the rest of the design and make sure you're not kind of destroying your vanity or, you know, that kind of thing by putting this stuff in.
People have love-hate relationships with different kinds of faucets. I'm curious to
That's
hear what y'all's love-hate relationships are with different so let's limit it, and I'll start. I don't have a hate relationship with a wall mount faucet, but I do have but here's where the rub comes in.
Okay.
I do have a hard time when it is mounted onto a wall without tile or stone.
Oh, yeah.
Or wait, I've had it happen several times with wallpaper. Somebody's come and wallpapered behind the faucet. Or the faucet isn't long enough to get really fully into the sink.
Yes.
And so somebody goes in, and this happens, you see this, y'all can actually see this in restaurants all the time.
Yep.
Restaurant bathrooms are notorious for doing these lovely wall mount fixtures, and the faucet doesn't extend long enough and you get splash all over the place. So that's my like, maybe not love hate, but like super pet peeve stuff about wall mount faucets. All right, I'm done with that.
Well, that goes hand in hand with one of my super pet peeve things is vessel sinks. So vessel sinks are sinks that sit on top of the vanity. And look,
They were
I've
a
done
thing.
them. They were a thing.
They were a thing.
We all were there, but they're impossible to clean around. You lose all your stuff. Your countertop is now 6 to 8 inches below where the surface of the sink, like where the sink is. It's just, it's very silly. So, and it's, you know, if you do it in a half bath as a special thing, look, go on my website, you'll see a couple vessel sinks. So whatever, you got me. So it's not always that you wouldn't do it ever. But I think in a workhorse bathroom, like a primary or a kid's bath, certainly do not do that in there. In a half bath or something where you're trying to have a little fun or something, maybe we'll let you off the hook there. But vessel
I
sinks.
think we'll agree to disagree.
Sherry.
Maybe a
Hot
kid's
take on the
bathroom.
vessel sink.
I have in our place in Cincinnati, I have a modern vessel sink. And I love it. I love the lower counter and the sink. It's like a rectangle. It's awesome. Love it.
Okay. All right. You heard it here first, guys. We don't always agree on things, and that's
No.
okay. That's
All
the
right.
beauty of design. To each
Sherry,
their
what
own.
are your
I
pet
know.
peeves?
I know. My love hate, I will say, is a beautiful sink faucet that are like I don't even know the right terms, but they have the hot dial and the cold dial that you like touch and turn with the 4 spokes. Is there a name for that?
What? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the
Love
ones with the
that.
little porcelain and the old school like 1920s ones that say chaude and I don't know what cold is in French.
And then the hot and cold, you like mix it. But even
Like a widespread faucet.
but
with
even
2
better when they
faucets.
actually have their own
Oh, with
faucet.
two
Yeah, I knew where you were
faucets.
going.
I
The
know.
2
I
like
love
mix
it.
it in
I'm
that.
sorry.
I
In which
love
case,
it.
a vessel sink is very helpful because you can mix it
You
in
fill
the
it up,
bowl.
yeah.
Oh, listen to you guys in the vessel sinks. Okay, all right.
I do. I love it, but I hate it because it's very impractical.
annoying,
Like
yeah.
that,
But it looks
that
cool.
has to be in a sink that you just look at, and
Yeah.
and someday I'll have that sink that I get to look at.
Well, I will reveal here and now for everybody the biggest regret when I redid my bathroom that I messed up totally. Like I'm actually upset about this. So I'm saying it here so no one else makes this mistake. I was in the throes of VE. So I'd gotten the prices back and I was like, oh, I really need to cut some money. Like that's too expensive. So I kind of went through my whole thing and I was like, okay, I'm going to cut this and this and this. And most of the things I cut were like fine, whatever. It was this or that. I don't even remember. But the thing that I cut that was a huge mistake, a hand shower.
I
in
cut
my
it too.
primer.
It's not just you. I just finished my
You
bathroom.
did it
I
too?
cut that. I did the exact same thing.
But
VE
isn't it the
hit
worst
me,
decision?
and I was like, well, I've only been back in the shower for maybe 2 weeks. I
Taylor.
don't think it was it is not my good. It was not a good decision on my part.
I can't believe you did that after I did it like 3 years ago. Oh my gosh. And here's why, folks, this is a stupid decision. It's stupid because it's really hard to put a hand shower in later. So
Yes.
there's a lot of
Impossible.
things you can fix later that, okay, you pick the wrong toilet, you hate it, put it, take it out, put a new one in, whatever. But your kitchen faucet you hate, take it out, put a new one in. A hand shower requires like getting into the tile, putting a different valve in, like it's a mess. And that was stupid. And I saved $1,500. And every time I think about that, I'm like, that was really dumb.
I don't have the excessive regret yet because the shower's not that big, and so I haven't like missed
It'll set
it.
in. It's coming.
It's coming. Well, like I said, I'm just glad to be back in it at this
That's
point.
true. That's
and
how I was too. And then
I'm
like
just
6 months
happy to
in, I
be
was
in
like,
it.
oh.
The last thing I'll say that's my real pet peeve, and we draw them all the time, design them all the time, are Jack and Jill bathrooms. I think they're ridiculous.
Agreed.
I think it's a
I
terrible
love
setup.
Jack and Jill bathroom.
Oh.
But only between kids' rooms.
Even same-sex kids' rooms. Come on, you're saving a bathtub and
Yeah.
a toilet.
I know.
But if there's not room, so in a renovation, if there's
I would
no
do a
room,
hall bath.
So I will say this: we just did our bathroom, primary bath, and we actually turned it from an enclosed bathroom into kind of a mini Jack and Jill. And here's why. Because the room next door had no access to a bathroom at all. It was sort of landlocked. And so by making a little door there, we allowed for it to be a nursery so that if somebody in the middle of the night needs to go to a baby, they can walk through a lovely lit with my awesome potty lights bathroom to get to the nursery and do it in a quiet way. So I do, or it could be a dressing room, which is the other option that we were thinking about for it. So I'm not anti Jack and Jill.
Well, there are exceptions to every
There's
rule.
exceptions to everything. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's why it's a love-hate, right?
Yes,
Right.
correct.
The truth here is, guys, we could talk about plumbing fixtures for the next like 8 hours straight, and we wouldn't get bored, but our listeners probably would. So we should probably wrap it up.
But we want to hear
Okay.
all your hot takes on vessel sinks.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Let's
and
have a
mistakes
poll.
that
and mistakes.
we know better to do. But seriously, I think there's a lot more we can talk about all this stuff, and we can do a deep dive on showers or toilets. We didn't even talk about toilets. That's
Yeah.
there's a lot to talk about there. So anyway, but I think that's it for today.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us today on Home the Second Story for this quick snack. If you have questions for us or topics you'd like us to cover, including a deep dive on toilets, or if you're interested in being a guest, just reach out to us at admin@htsspodcast.com. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to Home, the Second Story podcast. Feel free to share this episode with a friend. Contact information for all three of our architects are in our show notes. And don't miss future episodes. Follow or subscribe to our show for free in Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening right now.